Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to do some practice with long run costs and the idea of the different scales of production. So let's get started. So this first problem says the table below shows the output a firm produces using different amounts of capital and labor. And then we often abbreviate capital with a K. So that's what this column is telling us, is like if we have zero labor and no capital, then and it doesn't matter if we have like one capital or even two capital without any labor, we're not producing anything. But if we have one labor and we have one capital, that is to say one machine, then we'll make 10 units. If we have one worker and say two machines, we'll make 20 units. And if we have two workers and two machines, we'll make 50 units. So that's kind of how you read this table. The markets for capital and labor are perfectly competitive, and they're telling us that so that we know that like these prices aren't going to change. The rental rate or the price of capital is 75, and the wage rate is $200 per worker. We say unit, but it's a worker, right? In the short run, capital is fixed and labor is variable. So you could either kind of have this scenario where you have one machine, or you could have kind of the cover up that, and you could have two machines and all these different quantities of workers. Now, if the firm uses 1 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital, so we're going to look in the table, and then we see that's here. How much output is it producing? Well, it's producing 10 units. And then A2, how much is their total cost? Well, we know with one worker is 200, and the rental rate of that one machine is 75. So we say 200 plus 75 equals 275. And what's its average total cost then? If we know their total cost is 275, then we take our total cost and we divide by our total product to get our average total cost. So 275 over 10 is $27.50. And now, what if the firm doubles its size? So in other words, they doubled to 2 labor and 2 capital. So we moved down here. So we were here at 10, and we moved to 2 and 2 machines now, right? With this one, now we're producing 50 units. And now let's figure out what our total cost is. So 2 machines would be 200 times 2, or sorry, that's the workers, $200 per worker times 2, plus 2 machines, which are $75 a piece. So that's 400, and 150 is 550. So we have way more cost. Literally, we doubled our cost, but we quintupled our amount of output. And so what's now our average total cost? Well, we take the total cost, 550, divide by 50. And a way to think about that would be what's 5 going into 55 goes in 11 times. And so we can see here the average total cost fell as we increased the size of the company. And if the firm is operating with one machine and one worker, is the firm operating in the economies of scale, constant returns, or diseconomy scale of the LRATC? And because we know that in this first SRATC phenomena, where we had one machine and one worker, and then the second one where we doubled to 2 workers and 2 machines, we lowered our average total cost, we know we must be in the economies of scale range. Right? Economies of scale. And that's because our long run average total cost decreased from, and we can actually say, because it says explain with numbers, we can use these numbers that are right here, from $27.50 to $11. Okay, so not too bad once you kind of understand how to read these types of problems. Assume the firm currently has 2 units of capital and 3 units of labor. Okay, so we have 3 units of labor, 2 units of capital, so we're at 75. Calculate the marginal product for that 3rd unit of labor, show your work. So when we moved from the 2nd to the 3rd, we went from 50 to 75. So showing our work, 75 minus 50 equals 25. Did the firm experience diminishing marginal returns with the addition of the 3rd unit of labor? Explain using numbers from the table. So the marginal product, this is the marginal product of the 3rd, right? We just did that one. What's the marginal product then of the 1st to the 2nd, right? So we're going from 1 to 2. When we went from 2 to 3, we got plus 25 marginal product. When we went from 1 to 2, we got plus 30 marginal product. So we would say, because this is getting smaller, right? We had 30 from the second worker, and now we only have 25. We would say yes, because QL2 marginal product was, what did we say, 30, while QL3 marginal product was 25. And so that's enough to kind of say, yes, these numbers are getting smaller, so that's why we would have diminishing marginal returns. Calculate the firm's average total cost for its current level of production, show your work. So this is one more of these average total cost things. So it's 2 units of capital, 3 units of labor. So we have $200 times 3 labor plus the 75, and we have 2 of those machines. So our average total cost is always equal to total cost over total product. right? So we've got that part. Let me kind of scoot that up just a bit. And our total product at that level of output of 3 workers and 2 machines is 75. So over 75. And so this is going to be 600 and 150. So that's 750 divided by 75, a nice round number, which is $10. If the firm's output is sold in a competitive market, what's the lowest output price at which the third unit of labor would be hired? Now, this is a really tough question, right? When we actually haven't really thought about it that way before in this class. So I kind of encourage you to chew on this question before just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to follow whatever Gloss does. Think about it. This third worker, how much did their cost, right? Their marginal cost of the third worker was $200. And so I have to have that worker generate at least $200 to actually to justify hiring them, right? And it says, what's the lowest price at which that third worker would be hired? So let's think about, well, how much did that third worker generate? We actually solved that already. The third worker generated 25 marginal product. And so if we know the marginal product of the third worker was 25, you can use these two numbers and think about how much would these 25 units have to have sold for to justify paying that worker $200, right? And so think about that for a second. If you got 25 units, they have to sell for at least a certain amount to justify hiring the worker at 25. So what we're really saying is 25 times X equals 200. And at that point, X equals $8. So the actual price of the product in order to justify hiring the third worker would have to be at least $8 because that worker is going to generate 25 units. 8 times 25 is $200. So hopefully this helped you thinking about long run costs. I'll see you next time.